Part 6. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 51. Chapter 51, it seems like it was not said. Hearing what the other party said, Shen Yun, who was lying quite comfortably, couldn't lie down anymore. He quietly moved to the door of the operating room. Seeing many people waiting at the door, none of whom he recognized, Shen Yun found a corner and waited. It's not easy to use your spiritual consciousness rashly. After all, even the soul measuring board has been produced. Who knows if any of them have been produced to test the spiritual consciousness? I could only look at the door of the operating room helplessly, thinking that Yan Han had been talking to me very energetically just now outside, and besides, I had given the two of them a lot of spiritual spring water to drink while they were inside, so they should be fine. The three of them have experienced life and death together, and Shen Yun really doesn't want to have any shortcomings between the two of them. After waiting for a long time, I saw a doctor coming out from inside. Everyone outside came closer, and Shen Yun was also listening from behind. Both of them are out of danger. They took medicine before and handled it very well. Although it looks very dangerous, the injuries are far from serious. We will observe carefully later. If nothing happens, they can be out in 12 hours. But after 100 days of straining my muscles and bones, I still need to cultivate myself well in the future. The doctor looked tired, but he patiently told the results to a circle of people waiting outside. Everyone outside quickly thanked the doctor. Shen Yun also breathed a sigh of relief behind him. Fortunately, the two of them were fine. Looking at the two people being pushed to the intensive care unit, Shen Yun put down the mental arithmetic he was holding. The anger in the two people was still there, and there should be nothing serious wrong with them. Slowly he walked back to his bed. Although it was dark outside, Shen Yun still couldn't sleep for a while. He had only been at school for 2 days, and he was absent from class on the first day. He had to fill in the leave form when he went back. If he wanted to go back again, his roommate would probably be concerned. After thinking about what he had been doing these past 2 days, Shen Yun felt a headache. There are a lot of things to do. When can I go back? Sister nurse, I feel like I don't have any problems anymore. When can I go back? School started yesterday and I didn't ask for leave. If this continues, the teacher will have a problem with me. Shen Yun couldn't sleep, so he walked to the nurse's desk and said I saw someone there, so I went up and asked. Which bed are you in? The nurse looked up at Shen Yun and asked. One bed. Shen Yun recalled his bed. The business of this hospital should not be very good. He had been wandering around for such a long time, and he seemed to be the only one hospitalized on this floor. Oh, one bed, that's not our responsibility. You can go back and rest and wait for news. Anyway, the money has been paid. We are responsible for food and housing here. Is it rare for someone to get sick? Just stay a few more days. Don't worry, the school there will definitely be someone saying hello over there. Go and have a rest. Do you want me to help you? The nurse opened the book and took a look and immediately replied to Shen Yun. Shen Yun saw that she wanted to get up and help himself, so he immediately refused. This hospital was a bit outrageous. Is this a different kind of food and shelter control? I have temporarily lost my freedom. I guess when I get some free time, I will come over and ask myself something. However, Shen Yun became much calmer now. Instead of saying that he was stronger than the severe cold, he said that he knew the brush in the sea, which was a key. Without this thing, the map of mountains, rivers, and the country would be just a decoration. Knowing that the school had given instructions somewhere, Shen Yun returned to his bed. In the morning, before I woke up, I was woken up by the noisy sound. When I went out, I saw a neighbor who was an acquaintance. When I woke up from the severe cold, I was placed in the room next to my own. This was much bigger than when I came in yesterday. Not only were there a few people who looked like family members behind me, but there were also doctors and nurses. Captain Yan, how's the situation? Originally, Shen Yun only planned to look aside, but he suddenly faced the severe cold that opened his eyes, and he couldn't get through it without saying hello. It's okay, don't worry. Yan Han didn't have a cold face, but he looked a little weak. Shen Yun watched the person being pushed into the ward, but did not follow him in. At this time, his family must be concerned and he, an outsider, should not go in. As a result, as soon as I entered the house and sat for a while, someone knocked on the door. Shen Yun thought he was delivering breakfast, but when he opened the door, he saw many people standing outside. Are you looking for me? Shen Yun looked at the group of people outside, and the one named Wu Xian had met him before entering the water. Classmate Shen, I have something to ask you. Is it convenient for me to come in now? Wu Xian was the one who spoke. Shen Yun looked at the people at the door. They didn't look like ordinary people. It seemed that these people were the ones who decided whether he could leave. Come in. Shen Yun saw that there was nothing inappropriate about him. It was just that his clothes were torn yesterday. It might be rude to wear a hospital gown, but he was in a hospital and there was nothing he could do. 5 people came in with a loud voice, one was a woman, and the rest were all men. Don't be nervous. Captain Yan and Li Ming can't get up now. We're here to thank you on their behalf. If you hadn't gone in, they would have been in danger now. Thank you. Wu Xian spoke first as soon as he came in, expressing his gratitude. Achieved his purpose. Shen Yun quickly stopped Wu Xian, who was about to bow. I really didn't help much inside. I met them later. Even the medicine I brought happened to be used by them. Captain Yan and I also know each other, so you don't have to do this. Polite. No matter what, you are willing to stand up in times of crisis. We all want to thank you. By the way, this is Mr. Tao, Yan Han's superior. He wants to ask you something. After Wu Xian finished speaking, he introduced the person next to him to Shen Yun, a middle-aged man who looked very kind. Shen Yun looked at him and then at the lady standing next to him. His mind turned around. I don't know what you want to ask. The middle-aged man waved his hand, and the 2 people next to him immediately left and closed the door. Shen Yun, Wu Xian, and a man and a woman next to him were the only ones left in the room. That's right, we just want to know what happened during the time you disappeared. Where was that place, and how did you get out? The man asked in a deep voice. Shen Yun looked at the other 3 people in the room. I was confused when I went in. I was quite scared when I first arrived in a strange environment. As for where is where, I really don't know. Anyway, the terrain is very unfamiliar. As for how I got out, I was even more confused. Look now, Captain Yan is also awake. He is a man who has experienced strong winds and waves. Why don't you go ask him? He should be more reliable than a student like me. Shen Yun looked at the people in front of him and said with confusion. Shen Yun's answer was a bit beyond the expectations of the 3 people. After all, a sophomore student, after all the troubles, should have quickly told his story when he came to ask questions. Who would have known that he would have said it? Say the same thing. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 52. Chapter 52, Favorable Treatment. Shen Yun sat aside and looked at the 3 people. The hidden eyes facing each other could not have been seen if he hadn't been observing Octavia now. Could it be that these people really took advantage of the severe cold to come here and talk to each other? That's not possible. Now I am somewhat involved in the severe cold. If someone I don't know comes and asks me, I definitely can't say anything. Anyway, the other party didn't show their ID, and I didn't know them either. After Shen Yun answered, he sat silently. Since the cold was not coming now, he would not say anything. The little girl is young and reacts very quickly. If you don't want to say anything, don't say it. Let's go ask Yan Han again. Once we understand the situation, if there are no problems, you can leave here first, Shen Yun originally thought. These three people are not angry at themselves and Zinni for being too much, and they are probably not happy about it either. Unexpectedly, several people looked at each other, and Mr. Tao actually laughed, and the two people next to him also smiled. Could it be that I had made a mistake? These people came here to test whether I would reveal my secrets, rather than to explore my secrets. Shen Yun was a little confused as to whether there was any camp issue among them. Classmate Shen, you have a good rest first. Let's go and see the severe cold. By the way, our special department welcomes bold, careful, and capable people like you to join. I hope you can consider it. Wu Xi extended an invitation to Shen Yun. After saying that, the three people asked Shen Yun to have a good rest and went out. This is the end. How about a torture? In addition to dealing with cultural relics, Shen Yun spent a lot of time with the cold-blooded and ruthless monsters in the research room in his previous life. This is the first time I have dealt with such a person. As expected, it is difficult to understand people who smile, but Captain Yan should get used to looking at him with a cold face. In the next 2 days, Shen Yun had no one here to ask questions. Anyway, 3 meals a day were provided on time. Except that he could not go out, he was free in everything else. Even Shen Yun's request to read a book was immediately complied with. Shen Yundu wondered whether the service in this strange hospital was too good because there were no other patients. Most people would not dare to come here if they had no money. Captain Yan, when can I go out? After breakfast on the 5th day, Shen Yun started his regular activities for the past 2 days. After dinner, he just greeted Yan Han. Anyway, except for the day when I first moved in, there were many people in the severe cold ward, and later on, I was just like myself, alone. As for Li Ming, he was seriously injured and was recuperating elsewhere. No hurries. I'm still a student, and I'm absent from class every day, which is outrageous. Shen Yun's excuses were all ready. Yan Han sat on the bed and took a calm sip of water. Didn't you say you wanted to join our department? How about we go through the entry procedures first? Yan Han changed the subject. It's not that you didn't give me a reply, but it's not that I didn't want to go. Shen Yun wanted to be angry when he thought about the situation when he came out one day. Anyway, the pen is on you now. If you don't join our department, your future life will probably be watched by others, Yan Han said frankly. You will be free if you join your department. How are the salary and benefits? I am a student now and can't work every day. Hearing what Yan Han said, Shen Yun directly pulled up a stool and sat down somewhere and asked. Don't worry about salary. We not only have a fixed salary, but also special task rewards. As for your schooling, you don't have to worry about it. Our department doesn't need you to work. As long as there are tasks, you can go out and do them, Yan Han said slowly. It seems like you are well prepared. By the way, I just want to ask if Mr. Tao is really your superior. They all know the ins and outs of the matter, Shen Yun asked curiously. Don't worry, I've solved it. If anyone asks you about this in the future, just do as you said that day. If you still want to know anything, just blame it on me. As for Mr. Tao, don't worry, he is indeed me. Superior Yan Han patiently answered Shen Yun. At present, it seems that there is no harm in me joining your department, and I have also found a backer for myself, Shen Yun muttered. Yes, Yan Han said without blushing or heart beating. He has an upright look on his face, and he doesn't look like he is trying to deceive anyone at all. Then your mission is as strange as this one? Shen Yun asked the question she was most concerned about. I can only tell you that these strange things are currently handled by our department, Yan Han replied. Shen Yun was a little hesitant at first, but considering their power as a national department and the map of the country he saw this time, joining them was indeed not a bad idea. Okay, let me get started. Shen Yun nodded and pretended that he had done a work-study program when he was in college. Shen Yun nodded, and things were easier to handle. In the afternoon, Shen Yun received a small notebook, which was a work permit. There are also many departmental codes of conduct and confidentiality regulations. Then the benefits are a fixed salary of 200 a month, and task bonuses vary, so I can still manage it. Shen Yun looked at the things and keys in his hand, and for the first time he felt that the decision he made in the morning was not too fast. In this era, with such good treatment, the things to be done must not be easy. Classmate Shen, we will be colleagues from now on. You can take a good look at these things when you go back. Anyway, you have already obtained the certificate and you cannot regret it. I have given you all the things. When you have taken care of things, you can just go to the headquarters to report in. The things were sent by Wu Xian. He explained to Shen Yun with a smile on his face, turned around and entered the cold room next to him. Shen Yun next door could clearly hear the happy report. Shen Yun wanted to go over and ask these two people if they were trying to trick him, but after looking at the official seal and national emblem on the work permit, Shen Yun gave up the idea. Early the next morning, after Shen Yun had breakfast, he was informed that he could be discharged from the hospital. I have been keeping my feelings to myself, so I just want to settle on my job first. I told you earlier, but after procrastinating for so many days, I don't dare to enter the space to practice here, and I have been slacking off for several days. Shen Yunkai said hello to Yan Han cheerfully, changed his hospital gown into the newly issued work clothes and went out. Out of the hospital gate, Shen Yun was dumbfounded. He was in the suburbs, and he would not be brought back by others. Turning around and looking at the hospital with the door tightly closed, it seemed that it was unrealistic to ask for an ambulance to take me back. Fortunately, Shen Yun was not an ordinary person. He ran all the way and returned to the dormitory before noon. Oh, girl, this week, I have been busy at home without even saying hello. If the counselor hadn't said that, we would have been dying of anxiety. As soon as Shen Yun entered the dormitory door, he was directly hugged by Hu Yan. Looking at the other two who were still trying to pounce, Shen Yun quickly ducked aside. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 53. Chapter 53. Thanks to the 8 generations of ancestors. Sisters, if you have anything to say, please speak up. Don't jump on me. My little body can't bear it. Shen Yun helped Hu Yan to stand upright. The two people next to me were not excited enough to come over and hug them. After all, they had never been so excited during the entire summer vacation. Shen Yun, you are finally back, look at the faces of the three of us, Lu Mei shouted excitedly from the side. Shen Yun looked at the faces of the three people carefully. They were white and red, and they were young and beautiful girls. There was nothing wrong with them. As beautiful as ever, Shen Yun complimented. Why aren't you excited at all? This is all for the peach blossom cream you gave us. It's so effective. It's only been a week. Look at us. What kind of fairy skincare product is this? Hu Yan took the original, the small jar containing peach blossom frost. Looks like a girl in love, talking about her love for peach blossom frost with a dreamy look on her face. Calm down, it's nothing for you. My grandma's effect is exaggerated. I'm used to it. Shen Yun smoothly pushed away the face that was about to be shown to him. I don't know if the clothes he was wearing had been washed. Even though he had used the dust remover, he still felt uncomfortable. Shen Yun wanted to change quickly. When Shen Yun came back after changing his clothes, the excited people finally calmed down completely. Shen Yun, you've only been to school for one day and you've gone back. Could it be that there's something going on at home? If you need help, just say something, Lu Mei asked from the side. It's okay, it's okay. I just got stuck and was delayed for a few days. Don't worry, it's really nothing serious, Shen Yun said calmly. When the three of them heard what Shen Yun said, they felt relieved. Okay, it's fine, we've taken notes from the classes these days, you can take them and take a look at them when the time comes. By the way, I've also collected the books and put them on your desk. Thank you. By the way, I have to tell you something. I may have to move out, so don't miss me. Shen Yun told this matter directly, so as not to have to talk about it again later. You want to go out to live? What's going on? The three people looked at Shen Yun with question marks on their faces. I found a part-time job to make it easier to live out there, Shen Yun explained simply. Several people suddenly stopped talking and looked at each other, thinking that maybe Shen Yun's current family situation was not very good, so he had to go out to work. Suddenly, several people did not dare to ask any more questions, and just told Shen Yun not to ask if he had anything to do. Hiding it from them, I will help whoever I can. Don't worry, I will definitely ask you for help if I need anything. I have a problem for you now, please help me pack my luggage. When the three people heard this, they didn't hesitate and took action immediately. The last time Shen Yun came over, he didn't pack his things very much. He stuffed them directly into the cabinet. It was very easy to pack them up. He only needed to pack the books. By the way, Hu Yan, your bike was parked outside last time. I'll go get your bike back first. Shen Yun was busy and suddenly remembered that the last time he went to the lake to watch the fun, the bike had stopped near there. The place is not far from the dormitory. When Shen Yun arrived, there was a lone car parked there. Seeing that the car was not missing, Shen Yun breathed a sigh of relief. Looking up at the lake over there again, the things around it have been removed, and the water drained out of the lake has been restored. Everything is no different from before, except that the trace of aura inside has disappeared. Shen Yun looked at the dark and shiny brush in his sea of consciousness. There has been no movement at all since I entered. If I hadn't used it once, I would have thought it was just an ordinary brush. The key is that this guy seems to be stuck inside. On the way back, Shen Yun tried to take it out for a look, but failed. At this moment, Shen Yun wanted to hide in a deserted place to solve this tricky thing. After picking up the car, while the afternoon was still long, Shen Yun took a look at his new dormitory. It was in an alley not far from the school. It was a small private courtyard with two houses. It was enough for Shen Yun to live alone. Looking inside and outside, Shen Yun couldn't help but sigh at how wealthy the special department was. This staff dormitory was different from other places. He closed the door with satisfaction and got his things over before dark. Shen Yun, how much does it cost to rent this small yard? It looks so good, I want to live there. After helping Shen Yun transport things, Hu Yan was extremely satisfied with the yard. This is not expensive, just the current market price. Shen Yun was really speechless for a moment. Although she had originally planned to move out, she had not had time to find a house yet. She was really worried about the current rental price. I don't know, that's all I can say. Then you are really lucky to find such a nice yard. Please pay attention to me if you live here. If there is a house for rent, I would like to live there. Hu Yan's family is in good condition. Looking at the conditions of this house, my heart couldn't help but move. Shen Yun nodded, this is not difficult anyway. After sending away the three girls who enthusiastically wanted to clean up his room, Shen Yun went about dusting himself, and the room that was not dirty suddenly became spotless. After wiping it with water, the room is ready for habitation. By the time we finished packing, it was already 8 or 9 o'clock. My consciousness moved around inside and outside the house, but there was no one next door. There is nothing strange at home. Shen Yun entered the space with a thought. Going straight to the room where things are stored in the immortal mansion, Shen Yun felt that he still knew too little about cultivation in the past few days and urgently needed to learn more knowledge. After reading a book in the space all night, many of Shen Yun's doubts were solved. For example, the pen in my mind, although its name is not recorded, is also an artifact. The current state is obviously a lack of energy and needs to be slowly accumulated in the sea of consciousness. However, this is not harmful to oneself and can increase the capacity of the sea of consciousness. Anyway, the entire record expresses one meaning. Just thank your 8 generations of ancestors for getting this kind of thing, and don't think about anything else. Shen Yun couldn't shake this half of the hot potato, so he could only hold his nose and recognize it. Counting the time, Shen Yun left the space at dawn. There was a class today. If he didn't go, no one would ask for leave. The classes in the morning are arranged slowly and steadily, but there are no classes in the afternoon. Shen Yun wanted to go back and continue practicing right after class, but before he left the classroom, he was notified that the counselor was looking for him. Shen Yun was thinking about the days off, so he turned around and walked towards the office. "Teacher, please look for me." Shen Yun stood at the door and knocked on the door. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 54. Chapter 54 Desperate Saburo. I heard you're back. How have you been these past few days? Is there nothing going on at home? The counselor asked with concern. It's okay. I just got stuck on something and was delayed for a few days. It's not a big deal. Seeing that the counselor didn't know the truth, Shen Yun didn't intend to say anything more. It's okay. By the way, the matter of changing your name has been taken care of. Let me tell you, the counselor continued, and then as if he suddenly remembered something, he continued, by the way, a few days ago, a man who claimed to be Ji Shen's brother said that he came to see you and asked you to come back to Ji Shen. After saying this, he paused for a moment. Although you have recognized your biological parents now, your adoptive parents have raised you for so many years. If you can maintain the relationship, just maintain it. If you can't maintain it, don't make it too tense. This is not good for you. It's not a good thing. Although he didn't know the specific situation of Shen Yun's family, judging from Ji Shen's tone that day, Shen Yun's adoptive parents probably had some opinions on Shen Yun. He couldn't say anything, so he could only persuade him in a roundabout way. Shen Yun really didn't expect that Ji Shen would come to him and find his teacher. Now that I know it, teacher, I will take care of this matter. Okay, just make up your mind and make up your mind. It's okay. You can go back first. After the counselor finished speaking, Shen Yun was not left alone. Shen Yun left the office and was still thinking about what Ji Shen wanted to do with him. Could it be that the Ji family knew about the special department that they just joined yesterday? No, the teacher was talking about it a few days ago, so they don't know about their own affairs, so how can they find anything to do with themselves? As an ordinary student in the Department of Archaeology, there should be nothing that would catch their fancy. Shen Yun thought as he walked in the direction of where he lived. As soon as he arrived at the door of his house, he saw a man standing motionless at the door. He was wearing familiar work clothes and he knew he was waiting for him. Shen Yun looked at the familiar eyes. He was an old acquaintance. Hello, are you looking for me? Yes, the captain asked me to take you to the headquarters to report. The man did not ask Shen Yun's name. It seemed that he knew him. Now? Yes, the boss has returned to the headquarters. The man nodded. Shen Yun really didn't expect that Yan Han, a desperate man, was still in the emergency room a few days ago, and he returned to work just a few days ago. For such a hard-working person, it would be unjustifiable for the country not to give him a bonus. Then wait a minute. I'll put my things away and go with you. Shen Yun didn't hesitate. He had already joined the department anyway, and he couldn't regret it now. It was only a matter of time before he went to the headquarters. The two of them didn't have to walk. The man named Sule even drove over. The salary in our department is good, and where is the car? Shen Yun paid attention to the driving direction while inquiring about the affairs of this department. This is the only car in the entire department. It is the boss's car. He specially asked me to drive it here. Sule knew that Shen Yun was already a member of the special department, so he did not hide this little thing. Then how do we usually go on missions? How many people are there in the department? There must be some special people in the special department. Can you tell me about it? Shen Yun asked curiously. You will know this after you have been there for a long time. I can't tell you the details. Sule was not a good talker like he was at the research institute at that time, so he dismissed Shen Yun with a few words. Seeing that the other party was concentrating on driving and had no desire to talk to him, Shen Yun also stopped inquiring. Paying attention to the direction of driving, the address of the headquarters has no memory in his mind. Looking at the direction of driving, Shen Yun carefully wrote it down. Next time he comes here, he must know the way. After driving around in a car, Shen Yun was taken to a large courtyard. If Shen Yun's perception was correct, the straight line distance between this courtyard and his house was no more than 5 kilometers. The two of them drove around for more than 40 minutes. Is this a big detour to prevent employees from finding a place to go to work in the future? Are we going to have to go around like this when going to work in the future? Shen Yun asked Sule in the driver's seat. Seeing the person in front of him stiffen, he said, "That's not necessary. Sorry, it's just a professional habit today. It's okay, I just don't have to go around like this to go to work." The car stopped at the entrance of the courtyard, and Sule took Shen Yun in directly. Different from the haphazardly built courtyards elsewhere, the rooms in this courtyard are not messy after entering, and the rooms that are out of phase with each other seem to have been specially arranged. What are those things in that yard for? When Shen Yun came in, he was looking at the layout inside when he saw a pile of 3 roof-like things stacked there. It looks familiar. Isn't this something I made myself? But it was struck by the severe cold at that time. That one you're talking about, the captain got it back when he went on a mission. Even though the shape is a bit strange, it's gold. Now it is here for no other purpose than to give bonuses to employees in special departments. Look at the corners over there, they have all been taken away. If you work hard, you will definitely be indispensable in the future. Sule said softly. Shen Yun took a closer look, and sure enough, one corner of the 3 roofs that had been intact had been cut off on the top one. Shen Yun instantly felt a little angry. He had worked so hard and had no money to spend, but now these things were given to Yan Han's subordinates as bonuses. Shen Yun's face didn't feel a bit stinky. Where is Captain Yan? Can we go see him now? Sule didn't know why Shen Yun, who was fine just now, suddenly seemed to be in a bad mood. He shouldn't have done anything wrong. Could it be that these pieces of gold were so shocking? Thinking about what he thought when he saw these pieces of strange-shaped gold, Sule felt that he could understand Shen Yun's thoughts to some extent. It's really a bad idea for the boss to have so much money in front of him, but it's not his own. Sule, who wanted to understand, did not stop any longer and took Shen Yun directly to the courtyard. The entire courtyard building is as low-key as possible, no different from other houses next to it. The only thing that feels wrong is that when walking inside, Shen Yun feels that there are a few auras emanating from a house. A few strands of spiritual energy were floating freely in the air. If Shen Yun hadn't been able to maintain his concentration, he would have been tempted to go in and take a look. Where is that place? Shen Yun pointed at the house that exuded aura over there. There are some mission items inside. We can't go in without permission, Sule warned. Shen Yun nodded. Anyway, he wouldn't want to own anything inside. It would be good to absorb some spiritual energy outside. After taking a look at the location over there, Shen Yun continued to follow Sule inside. It didn't take long before we arrived at the place. It's freezing cold and everyone is sitting there working like nothing else. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 55. Chapter 55. Let's work overtime. Boss, Shen Yun has brought him here, Su Lei said, looking at Yan Han over there. Shen Yun saw Yan Han glance at him, then rubbed his eyes and looked again. Liza, you go ahead and do your work first, I'll talk to Shen Yun. Yan Han rubbed his brows and said to Su Lei on the side. After the others left, Yan Han also put down the pen in his hand. Shen Yun, have you felt anything wrong in the past 2 days? Yan Han asked, staring at Shen Yun. What's wrong is that I'm not sleepy after staying up late. No, Shen Yun shook his head directly. No, Yan Han frowned, after I came out of the hospital, I always felt that there were light spots in the air. Even if I checked my eyes, there was no problem. Could it be because of the mountains and rivers Shiji map? Shen Yun thought Yan Han was talking about something, but it turned out to be this. He unconsciously introduced Qi into his body. Nothing happened in the hospital. When he returned here, there was spiritual energy. He himself was attracted to spiritual energy to a certain extent, but he did not take the initiative to practice it. These spiritual energy surrounded him, but he felt, are there any lights in the air? Do you want to know the reason? Shen Yun asked, looking at Yan Han, who was thinking carefully. You know. I know, Shen Yun nodded. From now on they will work together, and he will always have to show some strength. Shen Yun didn't give in. The light spots you saw are spiritual energy. The place where the mission items are stored in the headquarters is emitting a very bright light. You probably haven't seen it when you came back here. Yan Han thought that this situation really happened after he returned to the headquarters. Hearing what Shen Yun said, he couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and walked outside. The room where the items were stored was not far from his place. When he looked up, he could see that there were dots of light all around the house over there. It was originally low-key and inconspicuous. The warehouse will be as bright as glowing. The first feeling of the severe cold is that the original idea of choosing the headquarters here to be hidden from the city was wrong. This is not hiding. It is obviously like putting a light bulb here for fear that others will not know. How about it? This will feel more obvious. It's not that there's something wrong with your eyes, it's that the world has changed beyond our expectations. Shen Yun looked at Yan Han and said to the side. So, you are not a superpower, but a cultivator recorded in the book, so you can see this thing called aura. Yan Han looked at Shen Yun aside, with a bit of inquiry in his eyes. It's not just me, you are also now, Shen Yun reminded. Yan Han turned around and walked towards the room. Shen Yun followed and heard him calling someone on the phone. Yan Han obviously didn't know anything about cultivation. As soon as Shen Yun said it, he wanted to understand some of the joints. The special energy they have been exploring for so long turns out to be spiritual energy. Does that mean that another energy body has appeared on the earth? This will have an impact on future changes in the pattern, and it is not a trivial matter. Shen Yun found a place to sit outside the door and let Yan Han make phone calls one after another in the room. She was running her skills and slowly absorbing the spiritual energy. The cultivation level that was just improved has not been able to stabilize in the past few days. Seeing that Yan Han has no time to ask himself anything for a while, it is better to improve his abilities first. Shen Yun was sitting outside and saw people starting to come here following Yan Han's call. A group of people left and a group came again, each one more powerful than the other. She didn't call him, and Shen Yun didn't take the initiative to come up. Shen Yun only stood up when his stomach was almost upset. He was called here right after class at noon. There was no lunch here. Although he was a cultivator, it was not a big problem to be hungry for several hours, but he still felt uncomfortable. It's comfortable, after all, my current state has not yet reached Anidia. Seeing the few people who had just entered come out, Shen Yun hurried to the door and said, "Captain Yan, is my report successful today? Can I go back to eat now?" Shen Yun knew they were anxious, but it was not yet time for the aura to fully recover. There was no point in being anxious. After all, there were only a few things in the world that could emit aura for a long time. Even if you know the existence of spiritual energy now, you can at most study how to practice it and how to obtain more cultivation talents and resources. Others, even if they want to start practicing, they don't have this condition. Oh, it's not that there is nothing, there is also the map of mountains and rivers, but it can't be opened until you refine the brush. Yan Han looked at Shen Yun standing outside the door and realized that Su Lei didn't bring him to eat first when he brought him over. He looked up at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already past 5 o'clock. "Let's go eat first. I have something to ask you today and I have to work overtime." Yan Han collected the things in front of him and locked them in the cabinet. Then he got up and walked outside. Shen Yun then realized that he was still in charge of food here, but he had to work overtime on the first day of work, which made him feel a little unhappy. Fortunately, the dinner here is quite sumptuous, but the idea of meeting my colleagues in the cafeteria was not realized because there were not many people eating here. Think about how the severe cold has called out batches of people this afternoon. It is estimated that these people have all gone out to be busy at this moment and have no time to come back for dinner. It seems that the future work will not be easy. After eating, the severe cold brought Shen Yun directly to the office just like clockwork. "Looking at you, this isn't the first time I've seen this kind of gas. We detected the aura on the mountain near Baiyun village. Later, the aura disappeared. Was it you?" Shen Yun looked at Yan Han. Sitting down by himself, he thought that Yan Han was going to start paying homage to Corporal Xian and was going to ask himself some questions about cultivation. He was still thinking about what he could and could not say. Unexpectedly, as soon as he came up, he started to mobilize troops to investigate the crime. Shen Yun looked at his cold face and said, "Why, is this illegal? Or is it not allowed by the special department?" Shen Yun did not answer directly, but Yan Han also knew what it meant. "I just want to ask, there is no rule saying that if you find such a thing, you need to hand it in, don't worry. Besides, although aura has just been discovered, there are many legends about this in our country. I know that there are some things that cultivators encounter by chance. I just want to make sure that the things are in your hands and not in the hands of criminals. You know, there are many experts among the people, but not all of them have been discovered, and not all of them have joined us. There are always some people with unspeakable intentions among these people. It is also the responsibility of our department to prevent these people from causing unforeseen harm." Yan Han explained carefully. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 56. Chapter 56, Soil. Then you can rest assured, there are no lawless elements in Baiyun village, Shen Yun answered clearly. Yan Han nodded, skipped the topic, and started asking Shen Yun some questions about cultivation. "How did you start practicing? It's a chance, just like you can't say that you have a new life. Can everyone practice this? It shouldn't be possible. Have you ever read a story book? It says that you need spiritual roots to practice. How do you know if you have spiritual roots? Use spirit testing stones, they are not cheap." Shen Yun thought about the few spirit testing stones in his own space. Although he would find a way to test spiritual roots in the future, these spirit testing stones are rare items. Yan Han heard what Shen Yun said and glanced at her. "Tell me, what's the price? Although you are an employee of the department, I won't take advantage of you." Yan Han put down the pen in his hand and said. Hearing this, Shen Yun suddenly thought of the 3 roofs stacked at the door. Although the price of gold is not as expensive now as in later generations, those are estimated to be worth tens of thousands, and they are all taken advantage of. It's a pity that I can't say this myself. I don't want the money anymore. Let's exchange it for something in the warehouse over there, Shen Yun said shamelessly. Although he was a bit suspected of taking advantage, as his cultivation level improved, he would definitely be able to do more tasks for the department. This is also another bonus. A kind of compensation. Let's go. Yan Han has no ink marks, and the really important things have been sent to confidential places. The warehouses here are filled with things that generate spiritual energy fluctuations, but don't know what their uses are. He can do it. Host. After passing several checkpoints, Shen Yun finally entered the warehouse he had been curious about all afternoon. There are a lot of things inside, including antique jewelry, strange trees, swords, guns, swords, and halberds, taking up half of the space. Shen Yun finally understood why he kept all the gold outside. On the one hand, the people in this department are probably the bold type of people who are good at art. On the other hand, it is probably because there is no room for it in this room, and compared with the things in the room, it seems that gold is indeed not that valuable. Are these things all obtained by our department? Shen Yun looked at the things on the shelf curiously. It didn't feel like a warehouse belonging to a special department, but more like a museum collection. Not only these, there are also many things that have been determined to be useless and have been sent to where they should be. These are just busy recently and I don't have time to distinguish them. Yan Han pointed to the things on the shelf and said. There is no need for a Ouija board, even in the cold weather, I can tell that those things are a little different. Shen Yun looked carefully at the items on the shelf. Most of them were ordinary items. There were only 3 items on the shelf that exuded aura. One was a long sword with a weak aura. Shen Yun looked at it carefully and didn't recognize it. It didn't match the records of famous swords in the information he supplemented that night. There were also a few good swords in Shen Yun's space. For the time being, this thing was still there. It was not a necessity, so Shen Yun skipped this one and moved on to the next one. It was a round lump of earth. Shen Yun touched it with his hand, and also touched some ashes. He originally thought it was some kind of spirit animal egg, but when he looked carefully, there was only a faint aura on it, and there was no life at all like a living thing. Shen Yun turned to the next one and took a closer look. It was a piece of jade the size of an egg. The quality of the jade was not very good. Where did you get this? Shen Yun asked, pointing to the jade. This thing is a bit like the few spiritual stones stored by his ancestors in his own space, but the quality is much worse than that. It should be a low-grade spiritual stone. There are many records in the cultivation materials. Generally, there are spirit stone mines. There are many low-grade spirit stones, but there may also be medium-grade spirit stones and high-grade spirit stones. Shen Yun was a little excited. If he found a spirit stone vein before the spiritual energy was revived, it would be possible to how many people have entered cultivation in advance. This thing must not fall into the hands of bad people. Do you know this thing? This is a low-grade spiritual stone. With this thing, it can provide the spiritual energy needed for cultivation. You also know that spiritual energy can only appear on some special objects, and many of them cannot be absorbed by the human body. But spiritual stones are different. The aura can provide people with cultivation, Shen Yun said carefully to Yan Han. This thing was brought back from a mission point by other people in the department a week ago. At that time, they only found this piece. Yan Han picked up the spirit stone and looked at it carefully. The spirit stone was shining in his eyes. When you hold it in your hand, the light spots will still pass through your hand. Then I have to advise you to ask more people to look for this thing. Shen Yun turned around and returned to the lump of dirt where he had just touched a hand of ashes, and directly took off the lump of dirt. Are you sure you want this? Yan Han asked. That's it? I'll test the spirit stone for you tomorrow. I have the sword myself, and I also have the spirit stone. Finding the spirit stone mine also depends on luck, and nothing can change anything. Okay, Yanhan nodded. The things on and inside the lump of earth have been taken out and sent for inspection. There is nothing special, and there is no spiritual energy left on the things taken away. Has been judged to be of little value. Although there may be new discoveries in the future, the most important thing now is the spiritual stone. Shen Yun stayed here again and exchanged views with Yan Han about his map of mountains, rivers, and the country, which he also couldn't get out. Then he directly refused Yan Han's offer and chose to walk home. It's a 5-kilometer road, and at Shen Yun's speed, you can get home in 10 minutes. Walking on a dark path, Shen Yun was holding a bag of dirt in his hand. I thought about breaking open the lumps of soil to see if the soil could be used for refining weapons or elixirs. After all, I had exchanged a spirit testing stone, so I couldn't waste it. Meow, a shrill cat meow suddenly sounded. The sudden sound in the dark night inevitably made Shen Yun's heart beat faster. With a quick glance, he saw a few stray cats and dogs in the corner. Do you gather here to fight this late at night? Otherwise, why would you scream so loudly? Shen Yun directly threw an earth spell at him, and a few lumps of earth separated the two parties who were about to fight. I thought I would do one good deed every day, but I didn't expect these animals to be quite sharp and discovered me directly. Before Shen Yun could leave, he felt these animals approaching. Are all stray cats and dogs so enthusiastic now? It turned out that the objects of these passions were not me. They kept trying to lean on the bag they were carrying, their mouths were ready to move, and they wanted to add a few mouthfuls. Shen Yun picked up the bag and left here at a faster speed. Although these animals are not monsters, the intuition of animals is generally more accurate than that of humans. Since these animals want to eat the things in the pockets, then there must be something wrong with them. It's so simple. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 57. Chapter 57, Self-Indulgent. When he got home, it was already midnight and there was still no one next door, so Shen Yun turned on the light directly. The lumps of dirt inside the bag are still the same. When I took it with my hand, I found another handful of ashes. This lump of soil is quite magical. When you touch it with your hand, sand will fall out of it. However, when you pick it up staggeringly, there is no soil inside. Shen Yun found a piece of white paper, carefully put the lump of soil on it, and then started to peel off the sand manually. I thought I might get a pile of sand in the end, but I didn't know that I got a pile of sand and an egg in the end. Evidently he had used his spiritual sense to detect it several times, but there was no egg-shaped thing inside. How could he have found this one in the end? Shen Yun continued to use his spiritual sense to look at it. The egg was visible to the naked eye, but there was still nothing in it. This thing can also deceive spiritual consciousness. Shen Yun took it under the light and took a closer look. It was about the size of an ordinary egg. There was no life or death on it. It was like a small stone, but it exuded a faint aura. Hand in with a flashlight, you can't see anything. Shen Yun carefully released some spiritual energy and looked at the egg that was still motionless. It looked like an egg-like stone. Having been busy for so long, Shen Yun planned to take back his spiritual energy, pack up and go to sleep. I saw the egg that had been motionless just now. It moved slightly, and the spiritual energy I had just released disappeared without a trace. I really thought you were a stone. You couldn't help it when you saw the spiritual energy. Shen Yun couldn't help laughing. He was just testing it, but he didn't know that this was really not an ordinary stone. It could absorb spiritual energy. The thing inside this egg, the thing is not a simple thing. Shen Yun looked at the motionless egg. When it first moved, he could feel a faint vitality, but now it was gone. It seemed that he was a little guy who was very good at hiding. I just don't know when this thing will be hatched and what is inside. Shen Yun looked at it for a while, but was not willing to use his own energy to feed it anymore. He directly found a spirit animal bag from the space and put the egg in it. Thinking about it, I haven't practiced much in the past few days. Shen Yun stopped grinding outside and went straight into the space to start practicing. In one night's work, although there was no improvement, it completely stabilized my cultivation level. Thinking about the fact that she still had to go to class during the day, Shen Yun had no choice but to come out of the space. After tidying up and looking at the empty kitchen that had not yet had time to add anything, Shen Yun decided to go to the school cafeteria for breakfast. Hey, Captain Yan, it's not good to come here early in the morning to block the girl's door. As soon as Shen Yun opened the door, he saw the cold face outside. It was still a little hot, but suddenly the weather felt better. I thought that living in a dormitory would save me some money and help me find an apartment. Sure enough, this has pros and cons. The boss can directly find your home and work overtime if he wants you to. You won't forget what you changed yesterday, right? I happen to live nearby. I know you have to go to class, so I don't need you to make another trip, Yan Han said thoughtfully. I thought you were afraid that I would run away with my things. A monk can't escape from the temple if he can run away, Yan Han said calmly. Okay, wait a minute, I'll get it for you. Shen Yun rolled his eyes and went straight into the house. I took out the spiritual stone from the space. When I went out, I saw Yan Han standing in the small courtyard, and the door was thoughtfully closed. Do you have something to say? Shen Yun didn't know why. Yan Han didn't seem like a very free person. Did he come over to care about the living environment of the employees? You have to tell me how to use this thing. The volume of the cold voice dropped significantly. Shen Yun could hear a bit of gnashing of teeth. It's very simple, just put your hand up and concentrate. Shen Yun held the soul testing stone in the palm of his hand and motioned to Yan Han to put his hand up. Single spiritual root, ice spiritual root, looks very similar to your face. Shen Yun looked at the glowing spirit detecting stone and said, he is indeed a genius. Single spiritual root, when the spiritual energy is revived, he is a talent who has been practicing for thousands of miles. Weird, I don't know that one night, I was able to draw chi into my body after staying by my side for a while. He was indeed a genius. Hearing Shen Yun say this, Yan Han's face became even colder. What does it mean to be the same as his face? Okay, I understand. I'll take the things back and go to the headquarters again when I have no classes in the afternoon. Yan Han took the spirit testing stone and put it directly in the box he had just been holding. How do you know I have no classes in the afternoon? Shen Yun asked curiously. You don't know about the curriculum, do you? Yan Han asked back, carrying the things in his hands and walking out of the door. Shen Yun looked at the severe cold driving away and couldn't help but chuckled twice. Sure enough, if you join this kind of department, even if you have privacy, it is only a small amount. Now I can't go to the cafeteria, so I can only buy some food outside to fool around with, and go directly to the classroom. The morning classes were packed full of schedules. Although Shen Yun had worked for several years in his previous life and was still in this industry, the lectures still felt a bit obscure and he had to remember things. Holding a pile of notes contributed by his former roommate, Shen Yun decided to go back and study it. He should remember to take note of it. It would be embarrassing if he failed the class again at the end of the semester. Shen Yun, you are really hard to find. Shen Yun, who originally wanted to rush to the canteen to solve the lunch problem, was blocked before he could go out. Looking up, he saw Ji Shen standing in front of him with a disgusting face. Looking at the classmates walking out around him, Shen Yun put away his outstretched hand. If you have something to say, don't block other people's way. Shen Yun simply put the book on the table next to him and sat down directly. Ji Shen heard this and stepped aside. Shen Yun, do you need help? A classmate saw Shen Yun being blocked, and several people came over to ask. It's okay. You go to eat first. I know this person. Shen Yun shook his head. Although Ji Shen has a strong temper, his strength is not very strong. Now Shen Yun can fight 20 people like him. If 2 people there was a conflict, and she was afraid of scaring her classmates, so she had better send them away. A few people heard that Shen Yun said they knew each other, so they walked out without saying anything else. You are really afraid of being embarrassed and don't want your classmates to see how poor you are now, Ji Shen said self-righteously. Young Master Ji, have you eaten? Shen Yun didn't know how he could tell that he was afraid of being embarrassed because his name had been changed. Why, now you know how to care about me. It's useless. I don't care about a little cheap care, Ji Shen said affectionately. Shen Yun knew that Ji Shen had been playing this tune since high school, but he didn't expect that he would still play the same tune even in college. As expected, he was spoiled at home and thought everyone would revolve around him. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 58. Chapter 58, If you can fight in a group, why do you have to fight alone? I mean, it's dinner time now, you're embarrassed to ask someone to chat with you without eating. I'm embarrassed myself, Shen Yun said directly. Ji Shen then realized that Shen Yun was mocking him, and his face suddenly turned dark. What's the matter? Now that we recognize our biological parents, we can't even talk to you. Ji Shen's tone was harsh and he stared straight at Shen Yun with his eyes, which made his otherwise handsome face look a bit ferocious. That's not true. You have something to say. I just want to remind you that it's noontime and I'm hungry too. Shen Yun didn't care how angry he got. Anyway, this kid is very good at talking. Beating someone, or beating someone in public, was something his Ji family couldn't do. Forget it, I don't want to break up with you so much. Why were you not here last time when I came to see you? I just left Ji's house and learned to skip school. Ji Shen started to get angry again as he spoke. Then he realized that he was a bit verbose, and continued, I told your teacher that you should go to Ji's house when you come back. Now I can't invite you. Do you have to ask my mother to come and invite you in person? Can you explain what's going on? I'm not young Master Ji, I'm carefree every day. Whatever you want, I'll prepare it for you at home. I am not your maid either. I will rush over as soon as you summon me. Shen Yun didn't care at all about his string of words and replied calmly. Humph, my sister is right, some people are just white-eyed wolves. I have been gone for so long, and I have even forgotten my mother's birthday. Shen Yun felt a little embarrassed when he heard this. What a useless excuse. If Wang Milan's birthday is remembered correctly, it is October 25th. It is only the beginning of September. It is a bit early to mention her birthday. Shen Yun glanced at Ji Shen. Isn't it still early for my birthday? Why do you want me to come over now? White-eyed wolf, do you need any more reason to let you go back? I have raised you so much, and I don't see you coming back to see me. I am really cold-hearted. You should go or not. If you don't go, you won't go for the rest of your life. Well, since you said so, I won't go. Shen Yun picked up the book and left. Not going was just in line with his own wishes. He stayed far away to avoid being kidnapped by morality in the future. Aren't you afraid that this will affect your future work? Ji Shen said through gritted teeth from behind. Not afraid. I have a job now, but I am afraid that I will not have a job in the future. It's a joke. Anyway, Mom asked you to go there this Sunday. I won't go with you. Ji Shen's frustrated voice came from behind. Shen Yun is in a good mood. As expected, he doesn't care anymore. No matter how bad other people's attitudes are, they can't affect him. Looking at the few people on campus, Shen Yun was not in a hurry. Anyway, there was nothing good in the cafeteria right now. She planned to buy something and add something to her dormitory so that she could start cooking in the future. Before he even reached the school gate, he saw a large cloud of gray gloom floating towards him. After a closer look, he realized that it was a listless person or an acquaintance. "Senior Zhang, do you still remember me?" Shen Yun thought about the work permit he had just received. He should take care of the situation at hand. The person opposite raised his eyelids with difficulty and glanced at Shen Yun. "Chen Yun, remember, we just met some time ago. You are back at school." "Yes, Senior Zhang, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so low-spirited?" "Hey, we are digging an ancient tomb recently. It's not going well. I'll come to the school and ask a teacher to help." Zhang Yuewei couldn't help but frown when he thought about the tomb he was digging now. In the past, everything went smoothly. This time, some strange things kept happening, which made everyone feel nervous. Today, he came back specially to ask an experienced teacher from the school to come and help. "It's not going well, can you tell me?" Shen Yun asked curiously. "I'm telling you, don't be afraid. Strange things have happened this time when digging graves. 2 people have been injured, although it is not serious. Everyone is a little scared. Several people are privately muttering whether there is a ghost. This time I am here to invite the famous Professor Zhang from our school. He used to live in a Taoist temple and is full of righteousness, which can suppress evil spirits." Zhang Yuewei did not hide Chen Yun, who had worked together in Baiyun village. Although what he said was scary, and what was said over there was also evil, generally speaking, they didn't believe the statement, and they were just joking. If there really was a ghost, who among them archaeologists would dare to go there? Shen Yun nodded, looking at the yin energy all over Zhang Yuewei's body. He really couldn't tell if there was something wrong with it. An injury like his was a trivial matter, and if it continued any longer, he would probably die. "Senior Zhang, where do you work? I want to go there on weekends to see you," Shen Yun asked smoothly. It's in the West Village. There was nothing to hide, so Zhang Yuewei told Shen Yun directly. "With the tomb in the city next door, I heard about a large tomb in the village. It seemed that the excavation was not going well, but as an ordinary student, she didn't know the details. But the reason for the unfavorable situation this time must be due to the yin qi. Thinking about the last life when I saw yin qi after the spiritual energy was revived, the spiritual energy appeared earlier in this life. Unexpectedly, the yin qi also appeared along with it. Thinking about the evil spirit used to catch the thugs from his research institute in his previous life, Shen Yun secretly clenched the book in his hand. "Senior Zhang, go find Professor Zhang first, and I won't disturb you," Shen Yun said with a smile. "Okay, if you have nothing to do in 2 days, you can go over and have a look. This is a big tomb. I think you can learn a lot from it," Zhang Yuewei cheered up and said. Shen Yun nodded, looked at Zhang Yuewei, who walked into the school, and directly performed a secret, sending a stream of spiritual energy directly towards Zhang Yuewei, and suddenly the yin energy in him dissipated a little. Shen Yun did not expect that the yin qi would not be scattered this time. It seemed that this time the matter was not a big deal, but this would ensure that nothing would happen to him in the past few days. Shen Yun didn't bother to worry about buying things in his small kitchen or eating. He walked directly towards the headquarters over there. He must talk to his superiors about this matter. Why should he do it if he could fight in a group? How dangerous it is to fight one-on-one. Hurrying to the headquarters, I found that people from the headquarters were queuing up to touch stones. Shen Yun only met most of his colleagues now. They are of different ages, both men and women. Some look very strong, and some feel like they are breathing while walking. It turns out that what I saw before was relatively normal. If this scene had happened yesterday, I would have thought that I was in the wrong place. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 59. Chapter 59. Do you really want to become a nun? Shen Yun didn't care about the people who were touching the stones to see if they were shining, and walked directly to Yan Han, who was sitting next to him supervising his work. I came just in time. I wanted to ask you something. Take a look. This is what we found this morning. Take a look and see if these can be used as training methods to improve your abilities. Shen Yungan called Yan Han. Yan Han was assigned 2 piles of books as high as half a person. Looking at the books on his desk, he pushed them under the desk. These must have been selected by him. Shen Yun looked at the piles of ancient documents and felt that his head was getting big, but thinking about it, he had just discovered spiritual energy now, so everything was starting from scratch, and it was necessary to study these things. But this is not the most important thing. Captain, I have something important to tell you, Shen Yun said anxiously. Yan Han glanced at Shen Yun's face and said, "Okay, let's go in and talk." The two of them entered the office, and Shen Yun directly told Yan Han what he had just discovered about Yin Qi. "You mean you discovered a new energy?" Yan Han asked seriously. "Yes, after the spiritual energy appears, the corresponding yin energy and demonic energy will appear. We must be prepared for these. After all, it is recorded in the book that neither of these are good things. Shen Yun will appear after directly reviving the spiritual energy." The situation has been told to Yan Han. Yin Qi, okay, I understand, I'll call people in right now. Yan Han went out and called a few people in. They are all men, some are young and some are slightly older. "Captain Yan, why did you bring us in?" asked a middle-aged man. "Yin Qi was discovered in Zakan. I wonder if you have any solution," Yan Han asked directly. "Yin Qi? This is a legendary thing, has it appeared again now? The exorcism talismans passed down in our temple should be effective. How about we go there with an apotropaic charm and give it a try?" The middle-aged man said uncertainly. Their Taoist temple usually looks like a symbol of peace and amulet for further education. Although some people can draw it, such as an exorcism charm, they have never been used, and he is not very sure about the effect. But thinking about the strange things he saw after joining the special department, he was a little unsure. Supernatural things had happened, and the exorcism charm might be effective. "Okay, you bring the exorcism charm, call a few people, and let's go over and have a look." The severe cold didn't bother me either. Although detecting spiritual roots is important, solving the problem is even more important. "Okay," the middle-aged man reincarnated directly and walked out. "Boss, I'm going to see how the master draws the talisman and see if I can learn from it." Shen Yun looked at the people going out and quickly talked to Yan Han. She has been coveting the complete collection of talismans in the space for a long time. Unfortunately, her ancestors were not very good at these. Alchemy still left images. This thing is just a book. Shen Yun wanted to learn, but he didn't understand some basic things, so he didn't. The method begins. "Go ahead, you'll follow me to the West Village later." Yan Han nodded in agreement. Shen Yun quickly turned around and followed him. "Master, can your skills in drawing talismans be passed on to others?" Shen Yun approached the man who had not gone far and bravely approached him to strike up a conversation. "Even though we don't know each other yet, we have just met each other, so they are considered acquaintances. Do you want to learn? As long as you have 1,000 yuan for tuition, we will teach you and you will be able to learn," the man said reflexively. Shen Yun looked at this familiar look and immediately felt that it was unreliable. It was definitely not that she couldn't come up with 1,000 yuan. "We are all colleagues, and we have to learn from each other in the future. Isn't it bad to ask for money?" Shen Yun muttered softly. "Oh, colleague, I'm sorry, my unique skill cannot be passed down from male to female, internally or externally, and I can't make the final decision, colleague." The man immediately changed his explanation. "It means the same thing anyway, don't teach if you don't have money." Irritating. "Do you really want to become a nun?" "Master, I just heard from Captain Yan that you are not sure whether this talisman tube will work or not. Why not teach me how to draw it with more than one person, so you have more chances, which can also solve the problem. That's it, I promise. After I learn the talisman painting techniques in your Guanli, I will never sell them separately. I will let you directly act as an agent in Guanli. Chen Yun discussed with him in a good voice and angrily. Hey, little girl, you are not big, but your tone is not small. We have been studying things for so many years. Why do you think your talent is better than ours? I heard that you haven't graduated yet. Go back to study quickly, little girl. Stop interfering in adults' affairs. The middle-aged man didn't think Shen Yun should be nice to her because she was a department colleague, so he scolded her and left. Hey, you look down on others. Shen Yun was speechless from behind. It turns out that not all employees in special departments are easy to get along with. As expected, individuals have their own temperaments. Little girl, do you want to learn how to draw talismans? Shen Yun was about to turn around and complain to Yan Han about his subordinates when he heard someone calling him. Old man, I want to learn, can you do it? Shen Yun turned around and saw a fairy-like old man standing next to him. His long beard looked a bit like a master. Drawing talismans is not a simple matter. If you want to learn, come with me, the old man said simply. Shen Yun was also a very skilled man and had the courage to follow him directly. This old man has a peaceful aura about him. Although he has no aura, he still feels very comfortable and should not be deceptive. Didn't go far and stopped at the door of the house next to Yan Han's office. The house is also an independent office. As soon as the old man entered the house, he went to get the yellow paper and cinnabar. These two are the most basic tools for drawing symbols. Shen Yun looked at the two sets of tools on the table and consciously stood opposite the old man. Look, let's draw the simplest peace symbol first. The old man started drawing as soon as he picked up the pen, as if he had practiced it thousands of times. The whole movement was done in one go, and the lines he drew were smooth and smooth. It's just that the old man has no spiritual energy. Even if this peace charm has some effect, it probably won't be much. Shen Yun thought about the old man's actions just now, and without using his spiritual energy, he directly took out a piece of yellow paper and started tracing on it. Just now he saw that the old man looked very relaxed, but it was a bit difficult for him to draw it in one stroke. After drawing more than a dozen pieces of yellow paper, Shen Yun finally succeeded in drawing one. That's good, little girl. She has succeeded in just a dozen pictures. She is still very talented in drawing talisman. If you practice more, you will be able to draw other things in the future. The old man stood aside and praised without hesitation. Thank you for your compliment. I haven't asked you for your name yet, Shen Yun asked with a smile. Oh, the old man's name is Zhang Qing'an, you can just call me old man Zhang. Zhang Qing'an waved his hand to signal Shen Yun not to be so polite. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 60. Chapter 60, Give Everything to Everyone. Thank you, Teacher Zhang, for your teaching today. If it weren't for you, I would have been thinking about this for a long time. I'm drawing a peace talisman for you, just think it's my heart. After Shen Yun finished speaking, he started directly. But this time it is not just a painting, but spiritual power is injected into it. Having practiced it a dozen times just now, Shen Yun carefully controlled the release of spiritual energy without making any mistakes. When the entire peace talisman was completed, the spiritual light flashed. Shen Yun felt a special power flowing on the peace talisman. Shen Yun did not expect that ordinary peace charms with spiritual energy paintings would also be effective. It seems that many things existing on the earth can also be used for cultivating immortals. Shen Yun took the drawn peace talisman, folded it into a triangle, and solemnly handed it to Zhang Qing'an. Teacher Zhang, if you don't dislike it, just keep it. I don't dislike it. I have drawn my own talisman for so many years, and this is the first time I have received a talisman from someone else. Shen Qing'an happily took the talisman drawn by Shen Yun and put it in his pocket. He turned around and picked up the pen and continued to draw on the yellow paper. This time it was a little different from the peace charm just now. This is the exorcism talisman you just talked about. You learn it? That guy won't teach you. I will teach you. Anyway, I teach many people. I don't care if you are the one more. Just let him live his life with the so-called orthodoxy. The old man said cheerfully. You are so old-fashioned. Only with people like you in our country can these traditional cultures be passed down. Shen Yun praised sincerely. In this era, there are many people like the Taoist priest just now, but there are not many people like Zhang Qing'an. That's right, I just looked away. Anyway, I won't take it with me in life or death. If I spread the word to more people, there will be people who will remember me in the future. Zhang Qing'an is very open-minded about this aspect. Back then, he studied art by himself. It was very difficult. Now that he was getting old, he was offered a job by the state, which relieved him from being lonely and helpless. The state provided for him in all aspects of his life. When he met someone who was interested in this aspect, he started to give back to the society. Shen Yun raised his hands in admiration. He was not as good as the old gentleman in this regard. The old gentleman bowed his hands and motioned to Shen Yun to follow suit, then he took a glass of water and looked aside. The exorcism talisman is much more complicated than the peace talisman. Although Shen Yun memorized the old man's drawing method, he drew it completely and experimented several times. Teacher Zhang, look at it, can this painting work? Shen Yun took the painted yellow paper and held it up for Zhang Qing'an to see. The little girl succeeded so quickly, Zhang Qing'an was a little confused. He hadn't finished drinking the water in his hand yet, so he learned the lesson. Looking at the yellow paper in Shen Yun's hand seriously, the lines on it were smooth and complete. It was indeed a complete exorcism charm. Not bad, not bad. Your talent is really good. The last time I met such a smart person was a few years ago, but he was a little worse than you. Zhang Qing'an took the exorcism charm and looked at it carefully, and couldn't help but praise. Come on, now that these two can draw, I have a complete book of commonly used talismans here. Take it back and read it. I wrote this book myself. It clearly explains how to draw these talismans. The more Zhang Qing'an read, the more satisfied he became. He turned around and took out a book from the drawer. Shen Yun didn't expect that after just drawing 2 talismans, the teacher thought he was talented and taught him all the money. This was an experience he had never had before. Teacher Zhang, how much does this book cost? Shen Yun thought that he couldn't ask for someone else's book in vain. No money, I'll give it to you. I published it once and sold a dozen copies. I still have a lot more, so I'll give it to you. Zhang Qing'an waved his hand and handed the book directly to Shen Yun. Then, thank you, Teacher Zhang. Shen Yun could only thank the old man for his kindness. Seeing the old man's lack of interest in writing, Shen Yun persuaded him, Teacher Zhang, times have changed. Maybe your book will become a bestseller in the future. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. I haven't seen anything in so many years. A few hundred books are nothing. Anyway, there are more and more people in our department. At worst, when I die, I will leave my last words and give each person a copy of this book. For new people joining the department, I believe Xiao Yan can definitely handle this, Zhang Qing'an said nonchalantly. Seeing that the old man had already thought about it, Shen Yun said nothing. However, the old man was in good health and should be able to see the day when his book became a bestseller. Okay, I won't delay your business. You have to go out in a while. Hurry up. If you don't understand anything in the future, come here to see me. The old man waved his hand to see the guests off. Shen Yun looked at the yellow paper and cinnabar on the table. Teacher Zhang, can you lend me some of these? he didn't know when the severe cold would let him go, and it was too late to go out and buy them now. Take it, take it. Thank you, teacher. Zhang Shenyun thanked him and moved to another place with a stack of yellow paper, cinnabar, and a brush. There will be very few people queuing up outside. I don't have an office, so I took my belongings directly to the office in the freezing cold. Captain Yan, can I borrow your place? Shenyun saw that Yan Han's place was not small, and he didn't want to ask himself if he had a place to work. Anyway, he was only a part-time employee, and he would mainly do more painting. The symbols in case of emergencies. Find a place by yourself. We'll set off in an hour, Yan Han said, and then immersed himself in doing his own thing. Shenyun had no ink marks, so he directly found a place, put down the things in his hands, and started working. First draw 10 evil exorcism charms, then look through the book given by Zhang Qing'an, and see one called the Tianli Talisman, which is specially designed to deal with evil spirits. Shenyun suddenly moved and asked Yan Han to borrow some blank paper to practice first. When he felt that it was almost done, Shenyun started to do it himself. After drawing a talisman, half of the spiritual energy that had just been consumed was consumed in half. Shenyun didn't expect that this talisman would take so much energy. He originally planned to draw a few more pictures, but he suddenly stopped. Seeing that the time was almost up, Shenyun packed his things and said, "I'll go out for a meal first. I'll wait for you at the gate when the time comes." Shenyun greeted Yan Han. "Okay, let's set off at 1 o'clock, don't be late." Yan Han nodded. Shenyun went directly to the canteen to eat some food, then went out to find a hidden place and entered the space directly. He was about to go on a mission. Thinking about the big snake he encountered in Shanhe Shirji Tudu last time, Shenyun did not dare to take it lightly, and directly using the time difference between inside and outside the space, he made up for the lack of spiritual energy in his body caused by the painted symbols. After leaving the space, Shenyun was once again the one with full combat effectiveness. Stepping out of the hidden boundary, Shenyun returned to the gate and saw Yan Han walking towards this direction with a few people. End of this chapter.